Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for attending on Zoom. Last minute change due to the weather conditions today. The title of the program, Welcome to Neurodiversity, a journey of inclusion and understanding by Disability Network, Eastern Michigan. Lauren Baker works for that organization and she is here to present on the foster awareness and appreciation for neurodiversity in various environments, including schools, workplaces, and communities. This program explores the diverse range of human cognitive abilities such as autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and other neurological differences, highlighting the strengths and challenges of each. I welcome Lauren Baker to present it on this. Lauren, welcome to our welcome to the presentation, and thank you very much for doing this for us. And all our patrons are eagerly waiting for your presentation. And if you have any questions, please uh, post it on the chat session or question answer session at the end of the presentation, and Lauren will take it. Lauren, I'm going to mute myself and also video switch it off, and you take it yourself, and please introduce yourself about your background and how long you are working in this organization and etc. etc. Thank you very much. Again, welcome you to the presentation, Lauren.
Thank you so much. My name is Lauren Baker. I'm the Public Policy and Outreach Specialist for Disability Network Eastern Michigan. I'm going to be sharing some slides with you this evening all about neurodiversity. It's a journey of inclusion and understanding. And as Uma said, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and I will answer them at the end of the presentation. I've also included in the chat a link for a survey. If you would be kind enough after the presentation to click that link, there are just a few questions so we could have some feedback how we could improve upon our presentations and provide future presentations to help serve the community and spread awareness on various topics. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Before I do, I'll give a little background on myself. I've worked for Disability Network Eastern Michigan for 12 years. I've done various roles. I've presented at Michigan Rehabilitation Services, empowerment training, soft skills. I've facilitated some classes in our local high schools. My background is in elementary education. I have my degree in elementary education. I majored in reading and minored in early childhood education. But in my role now, I'm focusing on public policy, where I reach out to our legislators, our state senators, and our state representatives to let them know about Disability Network and how we are able to help their constituents. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'll give a little background about Disability Network in case you are not familiar with our organization. We are a nonprofit agency. There are 15 disability networks throughout the state of Michigan. We are federally and state funded, and we serve people all ages, all disabilities. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and I will begin the presentation. All right. All right here. All right. Disability Network Eastern Michigan. We serve 7 counties: Huron, Lapeer, Macomb, Oakland, Sanilac, St. Clair, and Tuscola.
Hello, sorry to interrupt you, Lauren.
Yeah.
For some reason, the black one is blocking the last, whatever the your organization. Yeah, there it's
Okay.
blocking the box, black box. I don't know for some reason.
Does that look better if I move it in the
Yeah,
corner?
now it is better. Yes,
Okay.
people
Okay.
can see that presentation well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Let me move on to the next slide. Oops. Oh gosh. Hold on one second. Okay. Welcome to Neurodiversity, a journey of inclusion and understanding. Today we will explore what neurodiversity is and is not, what neurodivergence is and is not, and why these terms matter in modern society. I want to note that neurodiversity is the concept that different types of brains and thinking styles are natural variations of the human experience. I want to share the slide. This is my director, Tracy Comer-Scarcella. She is the Associate Director for Disability Network of Oakland and Macomb for Disability Network Eastern Michigan. Myself, Lauren Baker, Public Policy and Outreach Specialist, as well as my coworker, Nick Watson, who is a community resource advocate, and he also provides these presentations. Disability Network Eastern Michigan, or DNEM, is a center for independent living. Independent living affirms freedom of choice, changes attitudes, and expands community options. A Center for Independent Living is a community-based organization that helps people with disabilities live independently. CILs, for Center for Independent Living, as we call them for short, CILs are run by and for people with disabilities. So we have approximately 40 staff members, and I would say more than half of our staff members have a disability. So when we work with people in the community, we are able to put ourselves in their shoes because we have walked the walk and we know we can understand what our consumers are going through and how we can best assist them. The independent living philosophy is that people with disabilities should have the same civil rights, options, and control over choices in their own lives as do people without disabilities. The social model, disability pride, person first language, nothing about us without us, self-determination, and we are focused on being person-centered. The independent living movement's specific philosophy was forged with a set of beliefs that disability is best understood by people who experience it. Having a disability isn't inherently good or bad, it just is, like being female or short, Latino, gay, left-handed. Disability is simply a characteristic. It is society who decides what characteristics are desirable and which ones are less so. This represents a major shift in thinking from a medically based model of disability to a civil rights model of disability. It runs counter to what mainstream society believes and what is reinforced by the media. A disability doesn't exist until someone encounters a barrier. We believe that the barrier is the problem, not the individual experiencing the barrier. The language we use to describe disability is powerful. Our vision at Disability Network is that together the work that each one of us does helps create a community where those living with disabilities are empowered to pursue personal growth and choice through access to community resources and supportive services. Disability Network Eastern Michigan believes it is important to recognize that our goal is to create an environment that easily meets the needs of our consumers and provides the same options and choices experienced by those without disabilities. We hope that this vision inspires and motivates you to join us on our long-term journey to reach equity, equality, and inclusion for everyone. And our mission statement is that we're committed to promoting independence for all by breaking down barriers and opening paths towards independence and personal choice through resources, advocacy, information, support, and education. And I'd like to highlight two critical concepts. Breaking down barriers and opening paths towards independence. It is important to note that these are two separate functions. Removing the barrier does not guarantee a new path. Our work focus continually adapts to reflect the next action steps. So who do we serve? Disability Network provides information and services to any person, any age, with any type of disability, and who are looking to achieve an independent living goal or multiple goals. We can also serve any individual, whether or not they have a disability, with information and referral on disability-related topics. The only restriction is anyone we serve must be within our geographically designated area, which is Oakland and Macomb County and the 5 counties in the thumb. We often receive phone calls from people, family members or friends. They may not have a disability, but they're looking for some information to assist someone who does have a disability. So we welcome anyone to reach out to us through our social media, our website, by phone, or you can come into our office. We have an office in Troy, at 15 Mile in John R. And then we also have an office in Clinton Township in Macomb County at 15 Mile in Garfield. So those will be our 2 local offices. And we also have offices in the Thumb, the 5 counties in the Thumb. The core services that we provide at Disability Network, the 5 core services are advocacy, independent living skills training, information and referral, peer support, and transition services. As mentioned and explained earlier, the core services listed are rooted in our history and unify all centers for independent living throughout Michigan and the nation. The 5th service, transition services, was added after the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act was signed into law in July of 2014. Transition services include high school age transition services, and if someone is in a nursing home and or an assisted living facility and they're able to transition out and live independent in the community, we are able to assist with both of those groups of people. So getting into our topic that we are all here tonight to learn more about is neurodiversity. What is neurodiversity? It is the concept that different types of brains and thinking styles are natural variations of the human experience. Neurodiversity is a broader concept that includes all kinds of brains. Now I'm going to give you some examples. The different operating system analogy. Think of the human brain like a computer. Some people run on Windows, others on Mac OS, and others on Linux. Each system processes information differently, but they are all valuable in their own ways. Here's an example about the orchestra. Imagine a symphony orchestra. Each musician plays a different instrument, and their unique sounds contribute to the beauty of the music. Neurodiversity is like this. Each brain processes the world differently, but together we create a richer experience. The different learning styles analogy. Some people learn best by reading, others by listening, and some by doing hands-on activities. So we talked about neurodiversity, and now I'm going to touch on neurodivergence. Neurodivergence refers to individuals whose brains function differently from the typical neurotypical population. Neurodivergent people experience the world in unique ways, and these differences are not flaws, but variations in human thinking. Why understanding neurodivergency matters? It promotes inclusion, reduces stigma, and embraces unique strengths in society and workplaces. When we recognize that people think and experience the world differently, we can foster environments that respect, accommodate, and celebrate these differences. And I'm going to go a little deeper now about the importance of why neurodivergency matters. We want to promote acceptance and inclusion. Many neurodivergent individuals face misunderstanding or stigma. By learning about neurodivergence, we can create a culture of acceptance where differences are seen as strengths rather than problems. Schools, workplaces, and communities can be more welcoming when they acknowledge and respect different ways of thinking and learning. It reduces barriers and supports success. Traditional systems, education, employment, social interactions, often cater to neurotypical people. Understanding neurodivergence allows us to create better support systems, such as alternating learning methods in schools, flexible work environments, and communication styles that work for everyone. We want to encourage strength-based approaches. Instead of focusing only on what someone struggles with, recognizing neurodivergence allows us to focus on unique talents. And I'll give you some examples. A person with autism may have incredible attention to detail. Someone with ADHD may thrive in fast-paced, creative environments. And a dyslexic individual may excel in problem-solving and storytelling. And to tie it all together, we want to help reduce mental health struggles. Many neurodivergent individuals experience anxiety, depression, or frustration when they feel misunderstood. By embracing neurodiversity, we can create supportive environments that reduce stress and improve well-being. Now let's talk about what neurodivergent includes. There are we're going to talk about 6 different forms of neurodivergence here. Number 1, autism spectrum disorder. 2, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, dyslexia, dyspraxia, Tourette syndrome, and cognitive processing differences. And I'm going to give a definition for each of those 6. Autism spectrum disorder, people give an example and go a little more in depth about these 6 now. People with autism may have strong interest, process social interactions differently, or prefer routines. An individual with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, may have high energy, difficulty focusing, or prefer fast-paced environments. Someone who has dyslexia, a learning difference that affects reading and writing skills, but often comes with strengths in creativity and problem solving. Dyspraxia is a condition that affects coordination and movement, making physical tasks more challenging. And Tourette syndrome, a condition that causes involuntary movements or sounds called tics. And you may know someone, you yourself may have one of these, may experience one of these, a family member, a friend, someone you work with, someone you have attended school with, you do attend school with. So this is why we want to share more, bring awareness to this topic. Strengths in the community and workplace. Let me go back to this. I wanted to mention, when we understand and include neurodivergent individuals, workplaces gain creative problem solvers, schools become more effective for all learners, and communities become more compassionate and diverse. And the bottom line is understanding neurodivergence isn't just about helping neurodivergent individuals, it benefits everyone. When we create a world that values different ways of thinking, we all grow stronger together. And by the numbers, talking specifically about autism spectrum disorder, it's a developmental condition characterized by differences in social communication and behavior. Understanding its prevalence and associated statistics is crucial for awareness, early diagnosis, and support. In the United States, as of 2020, approximately 1 in 36 children aged 8 years have been identified with autism spectrum disorder, according to the Centers for Disease Control's Autism and Developmental Disabilities Monitoring Network. In our state of Michigan, approximately 1 in 59 children have been identified with autism spectrum disorder. A 2017 study estimated that about 2.17% of adults aged 18 to 84 in Michigan have autism, equating to approximately 164,360 individuals. And a key takeaway about autism spectrum disorder, early diagnosis, early identification of autism spectrum disorder can lead to more effective interventions and support. Awareness and support is important so we can understand these statistics, underscore the importance of resources and support systems for individuals and their families. Attention deficit disorder, or ADHD, hyperactivity disorder, is a neurodevelopmental condition characterized by patterns of inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. Understanding its prevalence provides insight into its impact on various populations. In the United States, approximately 11.3% of children aged 5 to 17 years have been diagnosed with ADHD. Boys are more likely to be diagnosed at 14.5% compared to girls at 8%. In Michigan, about 10.6% of children have been diagnosed with ADHD, aligning closely with the national average. Now looking at how many of the population have dyslexia. Dyslexia is a common language-based learning disability that affects individuals' reading, spelling, and writing abilities. Understanding its prevalence provides insight into its impact on various populations. Globally, estimates suggest that dyslexia affects between 5% and 20% of the global population. In the United States, approximately 5 to 15% of Americans, translating to around 14.5 to 43.5 million children and adults estimated to have dyslexia. In the state of Michigan, similarly, about 1 in 5 Michigan children are believed to have dyslexia. Looking at dyspraxia. Developmental coordination disorder, DCD, commonly known as dyspraxia, is a neurodevelopmental condition that affects motor coordination and planning. Understanding its prevalence provides insight into its impact on various populations. Globally, approximately 5 to 6% of the global population is affected by DCD. Children, the studies indicate that about 5% of school-age children are diagnosed with DCD. And again, recognizing dyspraxia early can lead to effective interventions, such as occupational and physical therapy, which can significantly improve motor skills and daily functioning. Despite its prevalence, DCD remains under-recognized, especially in the United States. Increased awareness among parents, educators, and healthcare professionals is crucial for timely diagnosis and support. And moving on to the next topic here is Tourette syndrome. Tourette syndrome is a neurodevelopmental disorder characterized by involuntary motor and vocal tics. Understanding its prevalence and demographics provides insight into its impact on various populations. Studies estimate that children, approximately 1 in 162 children, 0.6%, have TS, Tourette syndrome, including both diagnosed and undiagnosed cases. Adults, while specific prevalence rates in adults are less well defined, it's recognized that TS, Tourette syndrome, can persist into adulthood, though symptoms often diminish with age. And there could be co-occurring conditions. Many children diagnosed with Tourette syndrome also have other mental, behavioral, or developmental disorders. By gender, boys are about 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with Tourette's than girls. And children aged 12 to 17 years are more than twice as likely to have a diagnosis of Tourette's compared to those ages 6 to 11 years old. By the numbers, cognitive processing disorder encompasses a range of conditions that affect an individual's ability to process information efficiently. These disorders can manifest in various forms, including difficulties with memory, attention, language, or executive functions. Prevalence rates vary depending on the specific disorder and the population studied. The global estimates, a systemic review reported that the global prevalence of cognitive impairment ranges from 5.1% to 41%, with a median of 19%. And this wide range reflects differences in study methodologies, populations, and definitions of cognitive impairment. Mild cognitive impairment is a condition characterized by noticeable cognitive decline that does not significantly interfere with daily activities. A nationally representative study found that approximately 1/3 of individuals aged 65 and older had dementia. Specific cognitive processing disorders are going to be shared in some of the next slides here. We're going to talk about auditory processing disorder, which affects the brain's ability to process auditory information. Learning disabilities, we've mentioned, such as dyslexia, are specific types of cognitive processing disorders. Challenges in determining prevalence. Estimating the prevalence of cognitive processing disorders is complex due to several factors: the variability in definitions, the assessment methods, and population differences. Different studies may use varying criteria to define and diagnose cognitive impairments, leading to inconsistent prevalence rates. The tools and tests used to assess cognitive functions can differ across studies. affecting the identification and classification of disorders. And as far as the population differences, age, education, cultural background, and other demographic factors can influence the prevalence of cognitive processing. Now let's talk a little bit about some common myths surrounding neurodiversity and neurodivergence. Many misconceptions exist about neurodivergent individuals, often leading to misunderstandings and stigma. Here are some of the most common myths and truth behind them. The first myth is that neurodivergent people are broken or need to be fixed. And the truth is, neurodivergence is not a defect, but a natural variation in how brains function. Conditions like autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and others are differences, not disorders to be cured. Many neurodivergent individuals have unique strengths and talents. And we want to, of course, stress that it is not a weakness. Neurodivergence is not a weakness. It's a different way of experiencing the world. The more we understand and challenge these myths, the more inclusive and supportive society can become for neurodivergent individuals. Another myth is that all neurodivergent people have the same experiences. And that's not true. Neurodivergence exists on a spectrum, meaning no two individuals experience it exactly the same way. For example, one person with ADHD might struggle with focus, while another thrives in high energy environments. Another myth is that neurodivergent people are less intelligent. And the truth is that intelligence is not determined by neurodivergence. Many neurodivergent individuals are highly intelligent and may excel in areas like creativity, problem solving. And we just want to make sure that we are focusing on the strengths, not the weakness. Everybody is a genius. So we wanted to include this slide here. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its whole life believing that it is stupid. So show the differences between aquatic life and animals, and just we wanted to share that as a showing differences here. Let's talk about some of the strengths of neurodivergent individuals. Neurodivergent individuals often have unique strengths that can be incredibly valuable in personal, academic, and professional settings. Neurodivergent individuals bring incredible value to society with their unique ways of thinking, working, and creating. Recognizing these strengths helps foster inclusivity, acceptance, and success. Talking a little bit about creativity and innovation. Many neurodivergent individuals think outside the box and approach problems from unique perspectives. Some examples would be artists, musicians, designers, and inventors. They often have neurodivergent traits. A famous example, Leonardo da Vinci, suspected to have had dyslexia and ADHD, was a master of creativity and problem solving. Another strength is that you would have deep focus and special interest. People with autism or ADHD can have intense focus on topics they are passionate about, often becoming experts in their field. They may develop highly specialized knowledge in science, technology, art, or history. Another famous example is Greta Thunberg. Who is autistic. She uses her deep focus to advocate for climate action. We want to talk about the strong pattern recognition and attention to detail. Some neurodivergent individuals, especially those with autism or dyslexia, are excellent at spotting patterns that others may miss. This is a great skill for fields like math, engineering, coding, and analytics. A famous example would be Albert Einstein, suspected to have autism, who had an extraordinary ability to recognize patterns in physics and mathematics. And lastly, I wanted to mention the resilience and adaptability. Many neurodivergent people develop strong problem-solving skills and perseverance due to the challenges that they have to overcome. Oh, let me go back one. So what can we do? We can create inclusive environments, offer accommodations and support, and be an ally. To talk a little bit more about what an inclusive environment would look like, it would foster a culture of acceptance and understanding, provide flexible work and learning spaces, use clear and direct communication, offer sensory-friendly environments, and create structured routines and clear expectations. In terms of fostering the culture of acceptance and understanding, it's important that employees, students, team members are educated about neurodiversity. This will encourage open discussions and reduce stigma around neurodivergence. Avoid stereotypes. Every neurodivergent person is unique. And an example of how we could foster the culture of acceptance and understanding would be to offer neurodiversity awareness training for staff and educators, much like we are doing with this webinar tonight. To provide flexible work and learning spaces, you want to allow for different work or study setups, a quiet space, a standing desk, sensory-friendly rooms. Offer a hybrid or remote work option when possible, and create flexible seating arrangements and alternative learning methods. Using clear and direct communication, it's important to avoid vague instructions. Be specific and direct. Use written, visual, and verbal instructions to accommodate different processing styles. Check in to ensure understanding without signaling anyone out. An example, instead of saying just do your best, you could say complete these 3 tasks before lunch. And we would like it if everyone could offer sensory-friendly environments when possible. Reduce harsh lighting, strong smells, and loud noises. Provide quiet spaces for breaks or decompression. Accommodation and support. Offer alternative communication and participation methods. Encourage strength-based opportunities. Provide accommodations without judgment, and promote inclusive hiring and education practices. For an example, for how to offer alternative communication and participation methods, in a meeting, allow employees to submit ideas via email if they prefer written communication. Allow those different ways to express ideas instead of speaking, recorded responses, digital options. Give extra processing time when needed. And respect personal communication styles. They may differ. Some prefer face-to-face, and some may prefer communication via email or written. Encourage strength-based opportunities to identify and build on neurodivergent individual strengths instead of focusing on challenges. Offer roles that match skills like creativity, deep focus, or problem solving. Provide mentorship and career development support. An example would be someone with ADHD might thrive in high energy tasks, while a person with autism may excel in data analysis. Provide accommodations without judgment. Recognize that accommodations help level the playing field, not provide unfair advantages. Allow adjustments like extended deadlines, alternative testing methods, or different work schedules. Ensure employees and students feel comfortable requesting these accommodations. And in terms of promoting inclusive hiring and education practices, allow for non-traditional interviews, work trials instead of a verbal question and answer. Provide neurodiversity hiring initiatives and internships. For an example, Microsoft and IBM have programs specifically designed to hire neurodivergent employees. And we always would like to encourage peer support and advocacy. Set up mentorship or buddy systems. Create neurodiversity support groups or resource networks, and ensure leadership actively supports and advocates for inclusion. Now let's talk a little bit on how you can be an ally to someone who has neurodiversity or is neurodivergent. You can encourage peer support and advocacy. Educate yourself, which is what you're doing tonight by attending this webinar. Listen to and respect neurodivergent voices. Use inclusive language and support neurodivergent friendly policies and laws. Some examples of how you could encourage peer support and advocacy. A workplace can have an employee resource group, ERG, for neurodivergent employees. Educate yourself, learn about different types of neurodivergence, such as autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, which we've talked about earlier this evening. Follow neurodivergent voices and advocacy organizations, and challenge your own biases and misconceptions. There's a book that is an example of how you could challenge your own biases and misconceptions. And the book is called Neuro Tribes by Steve Silberman, or listen to neurodivergent-led podcasts. Listen to and respect neurodivergent voices. Believe neurodivergent people when they share their experiences. Avoid speaking over them or making assumptions about their needs. Ask, how can I support you? Instead of assuming what's best. Instead of saying, you don't look autistic, say, how can I make this space more comfortable for you? And advocating for inclusion and accessibility. Support neurodiversity-friendly policies in schools and workplaces. Speak up when you see unfair treatment or lack of accommodations. An example of a lack of accommodations, if a meeting is overwhelming, suggest offering notes in advance or allowing written responses. Use inclusive language and avoid harmful stereotypes. Say neurodivergent instead of disordered or abnormal. Recognize that neurodivergence is not a problem to be fixed, and avoid labeling someone based on their diagnosis alone. An example would be, instead of saying ADHD people are just lazy, recognize that ADHD affects executive function, not motivation. It's important to be patient and flexible. Understand that processing time, social interactions, and communication styles vary. Give people space to express themselves in their preferred way, either verbal, written, or visual. Accept that neurodivergent individuals may need more breaks or different work styles. An example of that may be a coworker with autism may prefer email over face-to-face meetings to avoid sensory overload. It would be nice if you could support neurodivergent-friendly policies and laws in the workplace. Advocate for disability rights and workplace accommodations. Support legislation that improves education and workplace inclusion. Encourage employers and schools to implement neurodiversity programs. An example would be how you could support neurodivergent-friendly policies and laws. Vote for policies that promote accessible education and workplace accommodations. So those are some ways that we can all be an ally. Next, we're going to talk about tips for using inclusive language. It is important to ask and listen, avoid assumptions, use person-first or identity-first language appropriately, stay informed, and be open to correction. When we ask and listen, when in doubt, ask how someone prefers to be addressed or referred to. Avoid assumptions. Do not assume someone's gender, ability, culture, or background. Use person-first or identity-first language appropriately. Some people prefer person-first language, such as person with a disability, while others prefer identity-first language, disabled person. It is important to stay informed. Language evolves, so keep learning about respectful terms as they change over time. And be open to correction. If someone corrects your language, accept it as an opportunity to learn. Now I'm going to share a video with you. So please give me one moment here to pull my video up. I'm going to stop my share for a moment. Share screen.
Hello, are you able to get those videos, Lauren?
Yep.
Okay. And
Okay.
that was an awesome presentation. I really liked it.
Thank you. Let me share my screen and hopefully you'll be able to see this video. Okay, one moment.
Yeah, you're going to share the video. Thank
Yep.
you.
Yeah.
Okay, let
Okay, I think I need to optimize the sound.
I so often hear people send the message like, thank God that's not me, when they see someone with a disability, or like, thank God that's not me or my kid.
Can you hear the video and see it? Just want to make sure. See, are you able to hear the video? I'll put it in the chat. You see and hear.
Hello,
Okay.
Lauren, and
Yep.
it was there was a
What-
you paused it, and there was a
Okay.
black one in the.
Let me start it now.
And that's sending the
Can you
message that
see it?
disability is equal to someone who
Yes.
is less than or
Okay.
broken or incomplete, and that's not the case.
Well, I have cerebral palsy. Affects me pretty much from.
There is a black box in the middle of that.
Things like that.
I have Tourette syndrome, which is a neurological disorder, which means I do movements and noises that I can't control.
I have cerebral palsy as well as left hemiparesis and nystagmus, which means that my whole left side is weaker than my right.
I have a very aggressive form of lupus, and I have a blood clotting disorder associated with my lupus. And 4 years ago, I had a clot in my foot. And then this happened in over 8 months and 11 surgeries. This was the end.
I love having Tourette's. I love that I'm 4'7". I love my obsessive compulsive disorder. And I think that's the case that many of us have embraced our disabilities.
I've had my disability since I was born, and it's a part of me.
My brain is quick and witty and wildly inappropriate, and it also has Tourette's. And at some point, I decided not to just love parts of my brain. A lot of times I see kids staring at me. That's okay with me.
I welcome it. Kids are curious.
But what I struggle with is when a parent shushes them or quickly pulls them in the other direction.
When a child is hustled away from a person or hushed, it stigmatizes even just asking the question.
Because kids then associate disability with feeling ashamed.
And if they've never seen anything like this before, they're gonna look. And if they have questions, let them ask. There's nothing wrong with that.
So instead, I hope that parents say things like, how cool that we all move differently and walk differently and talk differently, more than just like normalizing disability, but celebrating it. We date. People with disabilities date, and not always other people with disabilities.
Just because I have a disability doesn't mean I have to be paired with somebody with a disability.
Direct message to everyone in my life, but if you're gonna set me up on a blind date, please have more criteria than this guy also has a disability.
Not every single person with a disability is in a wheelchair. I am not in a wheelchair. I've never been in a wheelchair.
If one more person calls me an inspiration after just meeting me, I'm gonna burn your house down.
We aren't inherently inspirational or brave because we are disabled, which is kind of the idea that people think about when they say that.
It's okay to call me an inspiration once you know me or know something about me, but genetics does not make me an inspiration. Let me earn that word.
There are people who are actually doing amazing, brave things out there, whether they have a disability or not.
But it comes across to a disabled person as, wow, I'm so happy that I'm not in your shoes.
I get a lot of strangers trying to help me up the steps by grabbing my arm or my waist or something, and that's extremely inappropriate.
You can say, hey, do you need some help? Rather than just either forcing my chair or ignoring me. It took me a while to actually call myself a person with a disability, but I'm a person first. Being an amputee is secondary.
I'd rather have somebody say I'm a person with a disability rather than being disabled because of the whole control and ownership issue.
I hear differently abled. Ugh, the word is disability.
I used to call myself like differently abled, and some people didn't like that, and I'm just like, but I am different. And they're like, no, you're not. And it took me a while to actually see that I was using very able-bodied terms.
It should be a descriptor, just like I'm right-handed, I have a disability. When we're talking about disabilities, I hear the word that we want to be accommodating, which is great, or we're working on tolerance. Nobody wants to just be tolerated. Like, I tolerated Those 3 years my sister was learning to play the trombone. I tolerate going to the dentist. None of these things are things I like. They're things I tolerate because I know that I have to deal with. So there's such an important step in communities between opening the door to somebody with a disability and like embracing them and building a community with them in mind.
Okay, let me exit out of that. And I just wanted to share that video with you all tonight. Let me go back to my PowerPoint to share. And we have a few more slides left, and then there will be some time for questions at the end. Let me get to my next slide. Let me do my full screen. Okay.
Not able to see this slide. There is a black.
Okay. Share. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes. So,
Okay.
and there is a black box. If you can move it up, that will be great.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right. Now we're going to talk a little bit about disability pride. Disability pride is a celebration and recognition of disability as a natural part of human diversity and an important aspect of identity. It promotes self-acceptance, empowerment, and visibility for people with disabilities while challenging ableism and negative stereotypes. Disability pride shifts the narrative from seeing disability as something to be ashamed of or hidden to embracing it as a source of strength and pride. Some key elements of disability pride is self-acceptance and identity. Disability pride encourages people to embrace their disability as part of their identity and to view it positively, not as a limitation or flaw. An example of disability of the self-acceptance would be a person identifying as disabled proudly asserts that their disability is part of who they are rather than something to hide. How we can challenge stigma and stereotypes. Disability pride confronts societal views that portray disability as something negative or pitiful, promoting equity, dignity, and inclusion instead. We want to promote visibility. Disability pride highlights the presence and achievements of people with disabilities in all areas of society, such as art, sports, education, and activism. At Disability Network Eastern Michigan, we have an annual fundraiser. It's called Art from the Heart. This will be the second annual. Last year was the first Art from the Heart, and it will be held in Clinton Township at the Italian American Banquet Center. It will be May 1st, and we are encouraging artists, people who have disabilities or identify with having a disability to donate art that will be auctioned off at our fundraiser. It's a fundraiser gala to promote the services that we offer at Disability Network. So that's one way that we are promoting visibility. Community and solidarity. Disability pride fosters a sense of community among people with disabilities, encouraging collective empowerment and mutual support. It also invites allies to participate in raising awareness. Intersectionality. Disability pride recognizes that disability intersects with other aspects of identity, such as race, gender, and sexual orientation, and celebrates a diversity within the disabled community. Get to my next slide. The Disability Pride flag. Some of you may have seen this before, and this might be new to others. The Disability Pride flag is often used as a symbol during Disability Pride celebrations. It features 5 diagonal stripes in red, blue, yellow, white, and green on a black background. The diversity of disabilities, physical, mental, sensory, intellectual, and invisible. The strength and resilience of the community represented by the diagonal design. And the black background mourns victims of ableism and honors the disabled people who lost their lives due to systemic oppression. And there is a Disability Pride Month. It is celebrated in July in honor of the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, which was signed into law on July 26, 1990. This landmark law prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities in employment, public spaces, and other areas. And why Pride matters. It fights shame and isolation. It raises awareness and advocates for rights, and encourages inclusion and belonging. When it comes to fighting shame and isolation, disability pride helps individuals replace feelings of shame with self-worth, reducing isolation and encouraging connection. When we raise awareness and advocate for the rights, celebrations of disability pride raise awareness about the issues people with disabilities face and push for policy changes to promote accessibility and equity. Encourage inclusion and belonging, disability pride promotes a cultural shift where people with disabilities are included, respected, and given the same opportunities to participate as others. How to cultivate disability pride. You could use inclusive language, learn and educate others about ableism, support disability-led organizations, such as Disability Network Eastern Michigan, and to be an ally. Some examples of the importance of using inclusive language: it respects how individuals prefer to describe their disability and avoid stigmatizing terms. To learn and educate others about ableism, you can engage in conversations about the effects of ableism and the importance of accessibility. Support disability-led organizations. Engage with and donate to organizations that are led by people with disabilities and who advocate for their rights. And to be an ally, participate in disability pride events, support policy changes that promote accessibility, and amplify the voices of people with disabilities. And I gave a few examples earlier in the presentation about some people, some famous individuals who identify with being neurodivergent: Albert Einstein, Temple Grandin, Richard Branson, Simone Biles, Steve Jobs, Greta Thunberg, Michael Phelps, Whoopi Goldberg, Leonardo da Vinci, Dan Aykroyd, Jim Carrey, Billie Eilish, and Shaquille O'Neal. There is a mixture of athletes, actors, musicians, academics. So there are so many strengths that all of these individuals have contributed. And I just wanted to share that slide, that there are many famous people who are neurodivergent. Experience a disability. So there are, these were the 5 that we talked at the beginning: autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dysgraphia, and Tourette syndrome. And that brings me to the conclusion of my presentation. You could follow Disability Network Eastern Michigan on our social media pages. We have Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and a YouTube page. And I'm going to stop sharing right now. Hold on one moment. Okay. Our YouTube page, we have some wonderful videos that my coworker Jeffrey Astreen produces, and it has various topics, disability-related topics, to bring awareness. So we highly encourage you to check out our YouTube page. You can find out more information at our website, www.dnemichigan.org. We have a phone number for our Oakland and Macomb County offices, 586-268-4160. We are open 8 to 4 Monday through Friday. So please give us a call if you have any questions. Why I think Disability Network is so important. Because if you don't have a disability or you don't know someone, you never know when you may have a newly acquired disability and you don't know where to turn. So please give us a call and we are here to help you. The Huron, Lapeer, Sanilac, St. Clair, and Tuscola County offices could call the telephone number 810-987-9337.